Hey, my name is Cedric, and in this video, I'm going to show you how you can A/B split test your landing page, your home page, or even your product page. And I'm also going to give you some ideas on what are some things that, or some tests that you can run on, let's say, your landing page. And I'm going to show you how you can go actually implement an A/B split test. So what kind of technology you want to use. And then the last thing is, how do you actually measure your results, which is one of the most important things. This is why you're actually running an A/B test, right? To see if you could make this specific change and then get a better outcome. So you actually need to measure it using a tool, and that's exactly also what I'm going to show you inside this video. So probably the first thing that comes into your mind when I talk about A/B split testing is trying different headlines on your landing page, or potentially changing the button text instead of learn more at shop now, or even sometimes changing the button color, right, from red to green. And those are all great things to test. Definitely add that to your list. But what I'm going to do right now is just share some other things that I think is not really talked about, some other tests that you could implement on either your landing page, your Shopify store. And my goal is to give you a bunch of different ideas so that by the end of this video, you're not lacking ideas and you have a bunch of different things that you could potentially test. And it's a little bit like Facebook ads or Google ads, like you always want to be testing. And I find a lot of marketers are testing a lot on the creative side of things, right, in their ads on the Facebook platform, which is amazing. You need to do that, but you also need to apply that same sort of mindset with your landing page. Generate an idea, go ahead and implement it, test it, see if it was a good idea, right? What is the outcome? And if it was a good idea, then perfect. Now try and generate something else, right? Something new that will just keep generating better and better results. And that's exactly what we do for our clients inside our ad accounts. But you got to bring, again, that same sort of mentality when it comes to building your website or your landing page. So one of the things that I want to share with you guys is adding actually an FAQ section inside your page. So it could be on a product page, and if you have a service-based business, and you could actually potentially put it at the bottom, right? So just a frequently asked question, some questions that you get often from your customers. Actually adding that on that page can help increasing conversion rate. So that's something that I would potentially test. So let's say 50% of your traffic, when they come to that page, they see the FAQ, and the other 50 they don't. And again, measure results. The other one is a buy more, save more. So let's say a user goes to your website, they add a few products to their cart, and you want to increase the overall order value. Well, you can show potentially similar products, or in your database, you potentially have that data of like when someone buys these products, usually they come back to buy these other products, and potentially sometimes just like showing them an image of that product could potentially improve the conversion rate, or not the conversion rate, but the overall value of that order. So again, a buy more and save more is a great one. Collapse, don't close, email, and SMS. So when you go to a website for your first time, especially e-com stores, usually you get like a, hey, get 10% off if you give us your email address. And those are really great. They work really well. Most likely, if it's your first time visiting a website, you want to check out the page before you even give your email. So if a user closed the email opt-in pop-up, well, potentially you want to test and have like a little circle at the bottom of the website. Like sometimes it's at the bottom left or bottom right, like just that they can easily click and it's going to reopen up the pop-up if ever now they're ready to submit their email. But what a lot of websites do is once they close it, well, that's it. And then that kind of depends on how their email opt-in tool is set up. Then it's probably going to show it again like 7 days from now. But that is a long time, and potentially the user would actually submit their email. When they landed on the page, they would just want to take 5 minutes to actually review the content before closing it. So that's something else that you can test. Another thing that you can test is like a confidence booster in a checkout page. So if you have a 30-day money back guarantee, then potentially add that to your checkout page. If you offer fast shipping, again, add that to your checkout page. Potentially we're featured, I don't know, in Forbes or in some other really large publishers, then again, add that to your checkout page to kind of add like authority. Another thing that you could potentially test is like an on model versus product image. So again, let's say you have an e-com store and you bring a user to a product page versus a picture of the product, but let's say you have let's say it's a bracelet, you have a model actually wearing the bracelet and showing it off. And another thing is like upgrade to subscription in like your cart. So Amazon, I know, is doing that more and more. And when you're adding the product to your cart and you go to the checkout, you could say, hey, like if you want to buy this product, I don't know, every 2 to 3 months, we can actually give you a discount. And at this point, it becomes like a subscription. Obviously, this is not going to work for everyone. Like if your product is something that you just purchase and because it's so good quality, you're never going to need to buy it again, then obviously you can't implement something like that. But if, I don't know, you sell cookies or makeup and people need to come back every 3 to 4 months to purchase it again, then that might actually be a good test to make on your website. But those are, again, all different ideas, and you can go ahead with the tool that I'm going to show you in just a few minutes and go ahead and make these tests and see if it actually increased your conversion rate or your overall order value. With all that being said, I'm going to share my screen and show you exactly how to create your first A/B split test. So before we actually get into the fun stuff, right, making changes to the website, A/B testing, we need to install a few things. So one of those things is Google Tag Manager. So navigate to tagmanager.google.com, and if you've never created an account, you should see something like this. So all you have to do is give it an account name. So your company name would be a great thing. Select your country. Container name would potentially be your domain name. You can actually put anything, but the domain name is usually good. And then a target platform is web, because we're setting this up on a website. So once you've done that, you should see something like this, and you're gonna wanna click on the little code up there, and they're gonna give you some instructions on how to install this tool on your website. So it's pretty easy. Paste this code as high as possible in the head section, then additionally paste this code immediately after the opening body tag. If you need additional guidance on how to set up Google Tag Manager on your website, I've actually made other videos on the channel showing you how to do that and how to install it on either WordPress or Shopify. And by the way, in this video, the website I'm going to be using for the A/B test is actually a WordPress website. So you can be confident that this works really well on a WordPress website. But this is what you need to do. You need to have Google Tag Manager set up on your website to continue. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to tags, and I'm going to select tag configuration. And what we're going to be using to create our A/B test is a tool called Google Optimize. Now, Google Optimize can be installed via Google Tag Manager, right? And that's the method that we're going to be using in this video. But you can also add it directly to your website's code. Both options have their use cases. So if you actually decided to go the other route and install Google Optimize directly on your website, it can be great, because let's say Google Tag Manager gets blocked for whatever reason. Well, Google Optimize is not going to work, because Google Optimize relies on Google Tag Manager to fires, right? Because we're setting it up through Google Tag Manager. So that is one use case of going, separately and adding Google Optimize directly on your website. But I mean, I'm going to be using something called Google Analytics 4 to measure our results and how our test is really doing. And I'm going to use Google Tag Manager to set that up. So if Google Tag Manager doesn't fire, I'm not really going to get much insights on my test. So to me, it kind of all makes sense just to set it up with Google Tag Manager. So here they're asking for our optimized container ID. So you're gonna wanna navigate to optimize.google.com. And if you've never made an account, you're gonna see probably something like this, where you need to create your account and then just give it an account name, select whatever option you wanna select your country, agree to the terms and services, and then you're gonna be able to hit next and create your account. Now, I've already made a demo account, so I'm gonna click on that one and clicked on yours, and you're gonna see something like this. Then if you go to settings, they're gonna give you your ID. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy that and just bring it here. And then I'm gonna name this Google Optimize YT for YouTube. And then I'm gonna select all pages, because I want this to work on all my pages. Does it mean that my A/B split test will be enabled on all my pages? No, that's a trigger that we're gonna set inside Google Optimize, but I want to have the potential of making an A/B split test on all my pages, and that's why it's configured this way. If you're worried about speed, and you for sure know that some pages you will not be or never be using Google Optimize, then you can actually set up some different triggers here so that Google Optimize doesn't fire on all the pages. But since it's a demo, I'm just gonna keep this to all pages, and I'm gonna hit save. Now that this is installed, what we need to do is actually set up our tracking and how we're gonna be able to measure our results. So I'm gonna hit new, and I'm gonna get on tag configuration, and we're gonna be using something called Google Analytics 4. So I'm gonna click on the Google Analytics 4 GA4 configuration tag and not the GA4 event. Those are two different things. Here they're asking for a measurement ID. So I'm gonna go to Google Analytics 4, and this is my Google Analytics 4 account. So if you navigate to analytics.google.com, you should see like something like this that asks you to create an account if you don't already have one. All you have to do, if you don't have one, well, create your account, and by default, you're gonna create a Google Analytics 4 account and not Universal Analytics. So if by the time you're watching this video, Universal Analytics is still around because they're currently getting rid of Universal Analytics, well, just make sure that you're looking at GA4 and not Universal Analytics. And one easy way to do that is go to your settings, right, under admin, click on data streams, and then just look at the measurement ID. If it starts with a G, then you know that it's Google Analytics 4. If it starts with a UA, then that's probably Universal Analytics. So I'm gonna copy this, bring this here, I'm gonna paste this, and then I'm gonna call this GA4 basic, and then let's do YT, just so I know that's for YouTube. And I want this to trigger on all my pages. And you probably see a lot of different triggers here that you don't have in your view. And that's just because I've used this for a lot of different demos. You don't need to have all that. All you need is the all page trigger, which is there by default when you create your account. Now I'm gonna hit save, and now we're actually sending a page view event to Google Analytics 4 every time someone views our page. So that's not enough though, because what we want to do is, this is the website, and this is actually my website, and the A/B test that we're going to be making in this video is at the bottom here. So what I want to do is that I want to have 50% of my traffic that comes to my homepage, I want them to see a picture of me, and the other 50% are going to see a picture of Sydney. If you've watched some of our other videos on the channel, you probably recognize Sydney. And the test that we want to make is, when they see a picture of either me or Sydney, which one actually increases their conversion rate. So if we see that when Sydney's here, more people click on this button, then we'll know that it's better to just put a picture of Sydney there versus a picture of me. So there's gonna be a little bit of, I guess, a competition between me and Sydney. But again, this is a demo, it's just for fun. So I'm gonna add a picture of me and Sydney, and that it will be the test that I'm gonna be making in this video as a demo. So let me go back to Google Tag Manager, and now we actually need to create our trigger. So I'm gonna hit preview, and then I'm gonna connect to my site. So I am inside my website, and if you look at the top, you can already tell I'm using WordPress if you recognize the WordPress interface. Now I'm gonna scroll all the way to the bottom, and what I wanna do is I wanna click on this button, and that's kind of like what we're measuring for this demo. So when people click on this button, and if I go here, so we gotta click, and then because it opens up a new page, that's why we see all these different things that loaded. But I'm gonna click on 20 because that's the click that I made. And if I go to variables, one thing that I could use is actually just the click text. Probably something that would be better would be like the click ID, just in case in the future I decide to click to change the text to something else. But again, this is the demo. I'm just gonna use the click text, and I don't think I will be changing it anytime soon. So I'm gonna grab that, and I'm gonna copy it, go back to Google Tag Manager, and I'm just gonna simply create my trigger. So hit trigger, all elements, some clicks, and then it's gonna be when the click text equals schedule free session. And obviously I understand that a lot of people are not familiar with Google Tag Manager and are not doing something as simple as when someone clicks this button, that's what we want to track as a conversion. So this is why I recommend that you watch potentially some of the other videos that we have on a channel, showing you everything you need to know about like triggers, variables, and tags, so that you kind of understand how Google Tag Manager works, so that you can create whatever test that you have in mind and apply it, and yeah, have it running. This is my test. I'm just gonna type this, I'm just gonna type here GA4 test trigger, and I'm gonna save this. And now that we have our trigger, we can create our GA4 event. So again, tag configuration, Google Analytics GA4. I'm gonna select the basic YT, and this is where I'm gonna add actually a custom event name. Let's do demo underscore YouTube. Now, if we scroll down, the trigger is the one that we just created. So I'm gonna type test here. That's the one, and then I'm gonna call this GA4. Let's call this, let's just call this GA4 demo YouTube. So just one thing I do want to clarify is that the one that we grabbed earlier was a GA4 configuration. Now that we're sending an event, you need to select the GA4 event, right? So if you select the GA4 configuration, it's not going to work because that's not what we're doing. So this looks all good to me. I can actually go ahead and save it. And now that I'm happy with all my changes, I could actually go ahead and submit it. So we're actually done with Google Tag Manager for now. Next step is to actually go inside Google Optimize, and I'm gonna show you how you link it to GA4, but then how to edit your page and create your A/B test. So the first thing you wanna do is just link it. And if ever you lost this page, you can go back to just by clicking settings, and then we're gonna click on link to analytics. And then this is where you're gonna wanna select your property. So I have a lot of different properties here. So this is why you see so many different things. things, but you're going to want to go ahead and just pick the property that you created. All right, so it is now linked. One of the things you can do is you can actually install the Google Optimize Chrome extension. And I think you actually maybe need to have it installed to be able to create your A/B split test. So go ahead and click that button, install it. If for whatever reason, by the time you're watching this video, this message isn't here, go ahead, open up a new tab, type Google Optimize Chrome extension, and just add it to your Chrome manually. But I believe you actually need to have that to do the A/B test. So let's go back, and here there's a button here that says create your first test, and I'm just gonna hit let's go. Now I'm gonna name this Sydney versus Cedric. And then this is where the test will be happening, right? So we're gonna be doing and running this A/B split test. So I'm doing this on my website, like I said, so I'm gonna grab that URL and then I'm gonna place it right here. And here they're giving you a lot of different options and they're asking, what are you looking to do? Now this video is all about A/B split test, so I'm gonna select this one. But if ever in the future you'd like me to make another video about personalization, that is also something that I can make. And I think it can get really, really cool. So you can do some specific stuff like when users are coming, let's say from Facebook, then change the landing page to show this instead, or let's say they're coming from this ad, then I don't know, you can potentially show more videos or images that were related with that ad. So you can honestly do some really, really cool stuff with the personalization. And if you want to learn more about that, just let me know in the comment section. But again, we're going to select the A/B test and hit create. The first thing we got to do is add the variant. So I'm going to go ahead, click on variant. We can just give it the name variant 1. And I'm gonna go ahead and make the changes. So if you see something like this, then this means that Google Optimize properly loaded on your website. And you can see that if I hover over my menu right here, you can see like the link attribute, and I could technically edit the button. I can make all sorts of changes. So if you're familiar with like web builders like Divi or Elementor, if you're using WordPress, well, this is basically what Google Optimize is. You can add elements, you can add text, you can add images, and they basically have a web builder inside that tool. It's pretty cool. So now let me scroll all the way to the bottom here. So what I'm gonna do is just simply change the image, and I'm gonna add my picture now. So I'm gonna change the image source. So I've actually went ahead inside my WordPress website, uploaded my image, and now my image is hosted on my website. So I just changed the URL here, and you can see the image change. And like I said, in this test, that's kind of like all I'm doing. Again, I could take this like 10 steps further, but I want to keep it simple, and it's more just so that you can get your toes wet and get a feel of what it's like to use Google Optimize and make changes. But sky's the limit here, guys. Now I'm gonna hit save, and now this is save, and again, that's the only change I'm making, so I'm gonna hit done. Perfect. So let's just actually review that together. So we have the original. The original is this right here. So that's my website. That's the original. I'm not making any changes. And that is the variant, I guess, 1. Now, if I go, or sorry, that is the original. Variant 1 is the change that I just made, and it's basically just adding my picture. Now, what you could actually do if you wanted, you could set it as like do 50. Right now it's set to 50-50, and that's by default. And I usually like to do 50-50 when I'm A/B split testing. But if you have a use case, you could always go ahead and change it. You could change it to 60, 70, 80, 90, right? It's really up to you. But I usually like to do 50-50. And then you can also preview it on, let's say, your tablet, your mobile, just to make sure that whatever change that you made looks good on other devices, right? Because that's something else. Right? If you've made a specific change and you're like, okay, perfect, and you do 50-50, and then you actually notice a drop in results, well, make sure that it's not because of the change that you made are actually not mobile optimized. So definitely something to take a look at. Now, the page targeting, I am honestly just using my homepage, and whenever people land on my homepage, this is actually what will trigger this A/B split test. So you want to just verify this and make sure that your conditions are true. So if you're setting this up for, like, say, I don't know, a product page, make sure that you have the product page URL right here, and you can also potentially add some other rules. Now, the audience targeting, we're not really going to be covering that in this video, but there's other things that you can say. Hey, when someone is logged in, or when someone is located in Canada, right? There's lots of different variables that you can add inside your triggers, and when all of these are true, then show your A/B split test. But again, we're gonna skip that since this is more of like an intro. Now, here you want to make sure that your Google Analytics 4 property is connected. So make sure that you're seeing the proper property in the right web stream. And now under objective, we're actually going to create a custom objective. So this is where you're going to enter the event name. So if you remember, inside Google Tag Manager, I created a GA4 event, which is right here, I believe. Oh, no, sorry. Demo YouTube right here. So my demo YouTube event, this is my event name. So I would want to copy this and then bring this here and now hit save. And now this is my objective, because what we're doing is whenever this is happening on website, it's sending an event to GA4, and you can actually take a look at all your events if you go to configure. Right now, this is like a demo account, so we're not getting much data, but let's say if I were to publish my Google Tag Manager and just wait a few days, I would actually start seeing that event here probably, and then I could potentially mark that as a conversion, but this is the event name. So I would see what we call the demo YouTube event name. And again, this is what we're measuring as a result, and potentially make sure that you're giving it a unique name so that you don't get your data all messed up. So going back here, this is my primary objective. So this test is really just looking how many demo YouTube events are we receiving when we're using the original version or when we're using the variant 1. And this is what this tool is calculating for us. So now from this point, we can actually go ahead and check the installation. We should be good to go. I've already made sure that Google Optimize is set up properly on my website. So once everything is reviewed and good to go, you can go ahead and hit the start. The reason you're seeing the optimized snippet not found here is actually because I did not deploy my Google Optimize and GA4 setup yet. You're gonna wanna make sure that you submit everything, but since this is a demo, I'm actually not looking at deploying this, but you should not see something like that. And if you are, just go back and review all the steps and potentially you actually missed something. So now I'm just gonna hit start. And perfect. So this is actually running, and you're even potentially going to receive an email. And if ever you want to stop it, you can just hit end here. Now, if you go to reporting, right now I don't have anything, but you should start actually receiving data. And then we see here that the primary goal is my demo YouTube custom event, and you're gonna start receiving data here, which is really great because you can download it, or you could potentially connect it to something called Google Data Studio to like build your own custom report, which is a little bit more advanced, but also something that you could do. But congrats guys, if you've been following along and you kind of like understand the steps and the concept of this video, you just made an A/B split test. And again, at this point, like sky's the limit. You can do so many things. It's all about being creative and trying new things. So guys, that is it for this video. Now you know how to create an A/B split test using Google Optimize, Google Tag Manager, and Google Analytics 4. And it's really, really important that you set up the tracking with Google Analytics 4, because if you're not learning from your tests, I mean, you're not like, why are you making the test like in the first place? So really important that GA4 is set up properly. And let me know in the comment section, like what will be the A/B split test that you're gonna make, because I also wanna learn, and potentially you guys have some ideas that I haven't thought about. So definitely let me know in the comment section. And if you want me to make more videos about Google Optimize and A/B testing and personalization, well, let me know in the comment section, because I honestly love this topic. But that is it guys, bye for now.